Hello sailors, today what I'm going to be looking at is a few tips on mark rounding. So this isn't a sort of how to do it, this is a few really quite sort of advanced tips that hopefully will help you with your mark roundings, or if you're a coach, will help you design a few activities, give a few coaching tips to your sailors. And if you haven't seen my videos before, my name's Andy. I'm a sailing coach and instructor trainer working in the UK. I try to make some videos that are hopefully going to be useful for sailors, but also useful for coaches as well, so you can give your sailors a few tips. And the bits I'm looking at today are inspired by, or taken from directly, a sports psych study that put some eye tracking glasses on some sailors and sent them round some marks. And then they compared sort of elite level or sort of national level sailors compared to sort of your decent club level sailors, and they found a couple of key things that I think are pretty useful to take away. Some are sort of pretty much as expected. There's one is actually probably not what you would expect, but actually can lead to quite a good coaching tip. So first off, let's break the mark rounding down into three phases. So you've got the first phase is the approach phase, and in this bit you're getting ready for the mark rounding, adjusting your controls, getting the boat prepped to get round the mark. In the second phase, that is the actual bit where you're going around the buoy itself. And then the last phase is the exit phase. So let's have a look at what the study found in each of the phases. So in this first phase, the approaching phase, and this is all done for the windward mark, but I see no reason it wouldn't apply to any mark rounding, windward or leeward. So in this first phase, they found that the better sailors were keeping the boat flat. Well, that makes sense. The better sailors are going to be sailing the boat faster all the way up to the marks, so they're more efficient at sailing. And you can see less experienced sailors, very common. You're coming into the marks, start thinking about other things, and they're not able to keep the boat flat and sailing as quick as possible. So that is a good tip to work on. Coming up to the mark, keep that boat speed all the way into the mark. The second thing they found was in this phase one, that the better sailors were better at adjusting the control line, so they would leave it until later. Once again, sailing the boat at its optimum until later. Once again, gives us a good coaching tip, or a good tip to practice on, is adjusting the controls quickly. So first of all, make sure your control lines work really well on your boat. Second of all, have a practice when you're sailing along flat out. Can you let the controls off without slowing down? Can you do it quickly so you can leave it later before the mark rounding? Okay, on to phase two, and this is the bit where people were going round the mark, and this was quite interesting because they found one difference, or significant difference, between the best group, the better group of sailors, and the sort of average decent sailors, and also that varied depending on whether there was lots of people round the mark or lots of other boats, or they were going round on their own. But let's look. There was two findings. First of all, the better sailors were using more heel to help the boat turn around the mark, pretty much as would be expected, but again, gives a good tip. So at the windward mark, that would be using more windward heel, less rudder, so you're going to be using the boat to steer, keeping speed up. Again, at the leeward mark, you'd be using a little bit of leeward heel, or just flattening the boat off, and that will help it turn. So good tip, practice that. The second thing was actually where people were looking during the mark rounding, and they found the better sailors compared to the sort of your average sailors or less good sailors, when they were rounding the mark on their own, no other boats around, they would be looking around, taking in lots of information from sort of upwind, so spotting the next gust coming down the course. Makes perfect sense. The better sailors are taking more information to help guide where they're going to go on the next leg. Top tip from that. Right, when they put other boats around them, they now found that the the better sailors would spend more time looking at the mark. And that's quite surprising. You'd have thought, right, more things going on. You'd be looking around, taking in what the other boats are doing. But when you stop and think about it, right before the mark in phase 1, that's when you should be doing. You're looking around, spotting where the other boats are and establishing who has right of way, telling people you haven't got any room, don't try it, all of those things. And then when you get to the mark, the most important thing is getting a really good rounding, because if you do leave a gap, someone is going to nip in there and take it from you. Okay, and they found lower level sailors would be distracted by the other boats around, were spending a lot more time looking at those boats. So what can we learn from that? Well, really, when you do get to that mark, sort things out before it. When you get there, look at the mark, look to the exit of the mark. And they found that was corresponded to other sports such as driving race cars, and they found there that the best drivers would be really focusing on the corner and the exit to the corner as they were going round, help them get a better turn. Okay, so let's have a little look at that practice. Here I am going downwind towards the leeward mark, so still quite a way to go, just tweaking a few little controls here and having a good look around to check on the other boats, check that I've got room. Coming closer now, it's just about to get the controls on. So last minute, big control lines. Where am I? Yep, there we go. So last minute control lines. Now get the centerboard down, and then it's into the rounding phase. So windward heel, help go round, and my focus now switches to the mark to make sure I get a good rounding. And that was going to be key, because if I left a gap there, that would have opened the door to the boat behind being able to get a better rounding and get clear wind. As it happens, they did get probably a slightly better rounding. Very nicely done from them, but they are still in my wind shadow and having to tack away, so won that rounding. Good job me. And here we go again, another leeward mark rounding. So wind's gone a bit light, just getting the boat ready. It's all pretty slow, having a look around, checking on all the boats, making sure no one's going to dive in down the middle. Now focus switches to the buoy, a little bit of leeward heel to help me get round, and nice and tight, no one is getting in there and getting the better of me. You can see the boats behind, not quite so good from the two behind that one, and in fact that the third boat back there gets a lot tighter rounding than the 200 just in front of them. Now to the top of the course for a windward mark rounding. So once again, just controls off, having a little look around, checking where the mark is, and now windward heel to help me go round and focus on the mark to make sure I don't hit it. Unfortunately, what I did do was collect the ground tackle, which, yeah, it's a little bit slow, but quickly to the centerboard, and then again using a bit of heel to help the boat turn into my 360. Yeah, it happens. Better to just do a quick spin and carry on with it. Haven't lost much. Okay, so hopefully you found that interesting and useful, and maybe got a few ideas to try on your mark roundings. So sort of takeaways from that, just in that phase 1 preparation phase, make sure you're sailing your boat fast, get efficient at pulling the controls on and off, make sure you got those calibrated. The second part, when you're going round the mark, use heel to help steer the boat, and look at the mark, look where you're going. It will really help, especially when it gets busy and crowded. Don't get distracted by other boats. And I've been there coming into a leeward mark rounding, and the chap in front is so busy telling me that I haven't got room at the mark that they completely miss the mark and sail on, and I'm getting frustrated, and it's annoying. So when you are in that situation, have a chat with people and then really focus on the mark rounding. Keep looking at that mark. It will mean you get a far better mark rounding and exit to it. After that, get settled and get sailing as quickly as you can on the new course. Right, if that's been good, think about giving it a like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.